It was like a breath of fresh air. One by one, world leaders at the UN General Assembly pledged to reduce greenhouse emissions.
A contribuição do Brasil para...
I just wish to announce on this occasion that by 2025, Brazil's contribution to reduce greenhouse gas emissions will get to 37%.
2 months before the critically important climate talks in Paris, nations are scrambling to try to find a way to keep the global temperature from rising about 2 degrees Celsius since the Industrial Revolution. This uptick in temperature, or global warming, is blamed for a host of world problems, including more violent storms, punishing droughts, and melting ice on land and sea. Morocco's environment minister says the meetings in New York were a step in the right direction.
I think that the parties have ratified the sustainable goals in the United Nations, and I hope that they will be aware that Paris will be the condition to make these goals reality.
Leaders remember the fiasco of the last major climate talks in Copenhagen in 2009, a failure that cost then Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd his job.
One of the things that didn't work out in Copenhagen was having a strong and effective voice from India and from China on future action on climate change. Well, I'm pleased to say in the last few years that's changed.
While India left the United Nations Assembly with no concrete plans to reduce greenhouse emissions, China and the United States issued a joint statement on climate change. The two largest economies on Earth are also the two greatest polluters, and both want to curb their greenhouse emissions. While India and China are expected to depend on fossil fuels halfway into this century, China's President Xi Jinping says his country's carbon pollution will peak in 2030 and after that begin to come down. The gathering in New York was the last chance for serious climate discussions before the Paris talks. French President François Hollande praised China and the United States for their joint vision and said the agreement could set the tone for the upcoming Paris talks. But at the same time, he also issued a sobering observation, saying unless world leaders come to an agreement in Paris, it will be too late for the world. Callebs, CCTV in Washington.